Awesome.
Welcome to the Unveiled podcast. My name is Peg Peters. I'm your host. And on this podcast, we are exploring the healing potential of psychedelics for human transformation, healing, and spiritual depth and insight. I've been working in this space for about 7, 8 years now with gathering groups. And I've had the opportunity to meet an amazing young man who has an unbelievable story of transformation and healing. Probably one of the most profound kind of before and after journeys I've ever seen is my friend Shawn here. So welcome to Unveiled, Shawn. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. Let's first start by why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit of your background, particularly kind of where'd you grow up, what reserve are you part of, and just kind of we want to root you in your Indigenous history effort. I think first is just yeah. So just introduce yourself, Shawn, and then we can dive into your story.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So I'll just do a quick intro in my language, Anishinaabe Moin. So yeah, bonjour. Ogimao Penese, Indigenous, Magizian Totem, Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation. So yeah, my name is Shawn. I'm part of the Eagle Clan, and my community is Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation. So yeah, I don't know. I guess my journey kind of started. One of my first memories was being at a house on Victoria and 33rd. I think it was maybe like four or something like that. So yeah, I was staying with my mom and my stepdad at the time. I think my sister was there. But anyways, long story short, um, yeah, unfortunately, that was around the time when I was kind of put into my first foster home, right? And so that was, yeah, I was around like 4 years old, if I remember correctly. And yeah, unfortunately, there's like a before and then there's an after, right? And so unfortunately, at that time, anybody could be a foster parent back then, right? There wasn't no checks and balances or anything like that. And so unfortunately, there were some people who got into that field, who maybe didn't have the best intentions and that sort of thing, right? And so yeah, I went into this home and I was the only, Indian in there. And all the other kids were um, you know, white or whatever. Which is fine. I'm just painting the picture. But yeah, no, it became obvious pretty quick that the way I was treated was very, very different. And these people were quite harsh. And so I think for me, a lot of that uh, a lot of that early trauma was kind of rooted in there and all the abuse that took place there. And so that actually kind of held me down for a long time. Like that initial experience was so, life changing and so like damaging that I would say for a long time that was the root of my addiction. And
Mhm.
that was the reason why, I just drank and did so much stuff in my youth that, you know, it's it's um it's a miracle that I'm still here. All
Yeah.
the stuff I did, right?
Yeah,
But
Shawn,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I want to get into that, and I want to slow it down a little bit
Okay.
because what you just said, you kind of and I get it. You're like, hey, the origin, but I want us to. You told me a story once, and I don't know if you want to get in there, but um, you had experienced such horrific abuse as a little boy, 4 or 5, and the kind of abuse you endured is just it's unheard of, right? And you got locked inside in this place of fear and vulnerability, not feeling safe anywhere. Your mom is still alive. I think at the time she's struggling with addiction, which is why you're in foster care. And you have this moment where you have some kind of you get to visit your mom or something like that, and you tell her, Mom, this is what's happening in this home. She comes to the home. Can you kind of tell what happens? I don't know, that's really harsh, but
Yeah, no, no,
this
no,
is
it's
the
okay.
pain that what happens. You finally tell your mom, finally one person you can trust. She comes with a passion to defend you to the foster home. What happens, Shawn?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, at this point, I think I'd been in the home for like 3 months or something like that, and so I'm pretty sure I had like bruises and stuff like that, and so yeah, I remember she took me to A&W, so we went to A&W, had lunch and stuff, and so I guess in the best 4-year-old language that I could produce. I was like trying to explain to her like this is a really bad place and they're not like, and so she obviously understood, right? And she must have, interpreted the situation. And so yeah, we marched back to the foster home and she confronted the woman,
Mm.
right? And was like, just laying into her. And of course, in my mind, I'm like 4 years old. I'm like, yeah, you tell her, mom, you just, like that. But it's like, unfortunately, my mom had to leave me there, right? So, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, well, what do you think happened after that? Did the situation improve or did it get worse? Right? Like, as soon as my mom was gone, man, this lady just threw me in the basement and it was just like, holy man, it's like if I thought it was bad before, it got like so much worse after. And I remember there were times where I was like looking in the basement window and I'd see like parents coming to pick up their kids and stuff, and I'm just like, down there and whatever. And yeah, so that was
Oh,
you
Sean, I just like I can feel it in right in my chest, and it just feels like something is gripping me, as you think about that little boy, terrified in that moment, reaches out for help from his mother. Her mom's trying to defend him, and then it just gets 10 times worse. And it's almost like you'll never see your mother again. You're never going to be able to, and I can understand what happens with trauma in those moments is there's a part of you that says, I will never open up to anybody ever again. I have
totally.
to create a wall or else I will die. I will, because your life literally at 5 is on the line. It's life or death. And you just say, I will keep everything inside. I won't make a peep. I won't respond. You can beat me. You can do whatever you need to, but I will not let you feel my pain again. Right. Like that's kind of what happened to that little one there. And
Yeah,
then,
you learn to shut
yeah,
down, right? You learn
yeah.
to shut down and you learn to just kind of, manage it on your own. And so, you know what? In a very strange way, this is a bit of a paradox for me. So it's like, yes, it's true. That was that initially it was a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
right? But later on in life, for me anyways, learning how to become self-reliant, learning
Mm.
to become super just individualistic, that actually turned into a strength.
Mm.
And so yeah, initially, yeah, it may have sucked and maybe whatever, but later on, 30 years later, whatever, 35 years later, whatever it was, it's like now that's a strength. It's like now I feel, confident in myself that, I can, whatever comes my way, I can figure it out.
You've got it. Yeah. And I think that turn of turning that into a superpower, that I think came later, right? I mean, you really
Yeah.
began to understand, who you are and the strength that you really have inside to change your own life. But before we get there, we got to continue this journey. I mean, so you go through high school. I think you end up going back to you're in Vancouver, your mom's probably on the streets in downtown Vancouver. You're in and out of foster homes. You end up going back to your reserve during high school, which was, in one sense, a lot better than the foster home, even though it was there was some chaos there. But you felt a little bit more freedom. Is that true? Kind of just take me into that.
Well, yeah, well, let's back up a bit.
Okay.
That wasn't 100% accurate, but yeah, let's just back up a bit. So, okay, yeah. So, because yeah, I've been back and forth from Wabigoon and Vancouver like so many times in my life. It's
Mm,
like, yeah, I remember taking the Greyhound when I was still around. But yeah, I think the first time I went there, I was 5,
mm,
spent a year there, and then came back to Vancouver. And then so at that point, it was basically a revolving door of spending some time, like a couple months with my mom back in the foster home. Mom for a little while. Oh, another foster home, another foster home, another foster, and then just kind of like, a cycle of that sort of thing. And so that continued on until I think I was 9, and then I finally ended up in a home that was like 2 years. That was like the longest home I'd ever been in,
right,
and it
right.
actually provided some stability though.
Wow.
Because I remember going to McDonald's school, being in a floor hockey league and stuff. But anyways, and then yeah, unfortunately, there were a series of events that happened when I was like 10, 11, 12, 96, 97. It started with my grandpa
Mm,
passed. And so that was pretty devastating to the family, especially to my mom. And then like 3 or 4 months later, my Uncle Mitch passed away. So her brother.
Mm.
right? Had passed away. And then literally, um, like 4 or 5 months later, 6 months later, her son, my oldest brother, Reggie, committed suicide.
Oh my God. Oh, brother.
Yeah, and so within that short period of time, so it really had an impact on her.
Yeah.
Obviously, it impacted me, it impacted the family, but she took the brunt of all that because
Mm.
basically that's 3 generations in one shot, right? It's like
Wow.
her father, her brother, her son, all within a year, less than a year, you know.
So she
So,
spirals.
oh, of course, yeah, anybody would spiral in that
Yeah. Yeah.
situation. And yeah, the ministry had a big decision to make. And so yeah, they had like a meeting and da 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 da. And then one of the social workers actually came up and asked me, and I remember this specifically. They provided 3 options. They're like, "Okay, you can take a chance, go back with your mom, but if she messes up again, you're going to be in the system till you're 18." Okay, so that's option number one. Option number two, you can stay where you are with Roberto and Christina, and you'll be there till you're 18. Okay. And then the third option was you could go back to Ontario and be with your family. And so when it was presented like that, my 11-year-old mind, of course, I'm gonna say, yeah, I want to go be with my family, right? Like who
Yeah.
wouldn't want that, right? In hindsight, it's difficult to say
Mm.
if that was the correct decision or not. There are a lot of reasons for that, but anyways, point being, that was the decision that was made.
Yeah.
And so me and my younger brother flew back out to Wabigoon. That would have been the summer of 97. Summer of 97 we got there. So I would have been 11, he would have been 6.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a culture shock to go from a big city to
Mm.
like, even though I know I'd been there before,
Yeah.
but like now the move is permanent. It's like, it's a small community, right? But it is beautiful though. It is out in the bush. It's out in it's like, it is nice out there. Um, and then yeah, so we stayed at our grandma's for a bit, and then unfortunately though, a similar thing started to happen. We got moved around a lot. We just got
Wow.
moved around a lot. We just did. So spent a few months at grandma's, spent a few months at auntie's, spent a few months over here, and just what I mean. It just was right.
Mm.
And so, anyways, me and my brother were talking. They're like, "Yeah, I wonder how many freaking foster homes we were in growing up, eh?" And it's like, he's like doing the math and he's like, fuck, man, I think we were in like 40 or 50 different places. And it was just like,
Shawn, that's
yeah,
insanely
yeah,
unstable for a little
yeah.
boy to be tossed around month after month.
Yeah, well, from age 4 to 18, right? So
Right,
within that
right.
time
But that's
period, so
insane.
and sometimes it was short, sometimes it was just a weekend at emergency foster home, and then sometimes it was 3 months, sometimes it was 6 months, whatever, a year, 2 years, and it was just a constant, and so yeah, I remember up until a certain age, I always had this mentality of like having my bags packed. Like at any given time, right? It's like, okay, at any moment here, the next move's gonna happen. So better just, have it on standby.
Right,
And so that
right.
was kind of my mindset for a long time.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of how it
Yeah.
was.
Wow. So you obviously, I mean, that kind of instability, you don't know love, you've got these moments. Obviously, your mom loves you, but she's in her own struggle with addiction and
Yeah.
pain, coming out of residential schools, and all the horror of the families that in your generations, I'm sure that were impacted by colonization.
Yeah, well, she herself didn't go to residential school, but she was in a Mennonite home in Red
Yeah.
Lake. But I mean, the stories she told me were just as bad, just as terrible as stuff that happened in residential schools. Yeah, like her and my Uncle Mitch. And yeah, I mean, it was just that so basically, yeah, it's like it's been this systemic
Wow.
thing where it's like my mom was put into foster care, and then now I was put into foster care, and it becomes this like generational
Generational.
thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so you then as a kind of teenager after 18, you're kind of feeling the sense of you're lost. You obviously turn to substances as a way to mute some of the pain. What did you, was it kind of alcohol and then it moved into hard drugs, or how did that kind of journey go? Because you really hit the kind of the drug crisis on the streets in Vancouver just before fentanyl came in, which was really, that was kind
Yeah.
of the last straw. But yeah, so just take us into that time of just harsh addiction.
Yeah, well, okay. So again, I'll just back up a little
Yep.
bit. So the first time I smoked weed, I think I was like 11. So this would have been on the res. It was just more common back then. It was more easy to access, and plus I was hanging out with older people, and they had access to this stuff. And you hang out with people, they smoke weed, you're gonna smoke weed, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. I think around 11 or 12, I had my first drink, first, beer, and then getting drunk, and then yeah, that quickly. I remember the first time I got drunk, the feeling that it gave me, that kind of warm stomach, that kind of it just because what I mean, when you're traumatized and you're just like, and you finally get something like it's such a
Oh,
huge relief. You're just like,
oh,
oh wow, this feels really good. And
right,
so, after that, I mean, I drank as often as I could, even at that young age,
right.
to the point where one weekend I ran away from home, hung out with some friends in town, and we went and robbed a bootlegger, and we just like, did all this stuff, right? But anyways, after about a 5-day bender, I blacked out and ended up on a park bench in Dryden. And so the cops came and picked me up. And so that was my first encounter with the law, right? So they charged me with minor consumption. And what came out of that is the judge ordered me, my 13-year-old version of me, to go to treatment, right? So my first treatment center,
Mm,
13 years old. I got sent to TLC as just outside Fort Francis. Good place though. Good. They had a good structure there. And that was where I got a lot of my initial cultural exposure,
mm,
just in terms of like the importance of tobacco and what certain things mean, and
mm.
what it means to be an Anishinaabe, right? And so that was good. So I was there the first time for about 7 or 8 months, if I remember correctly. And then that's when high school started. So I went to go stay with my uncle, my uncle George in Fort Francis. Unfortunately, I was young and impressionable, and so I started hanging out with these kids. They smoking weed, you just whatever, right? You're being a kid. I was so young, but like I said, that even though that it didn't stick, it's a lot of the stuff I learned there
Mm.
did later on. I
Right.
remember some of the stuff that I learned there.
Yeah.
And then yeah, kind of went like that. So yeah, in my teenage years, it was a lot of booze, a lot of weed.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was 15, my older brother introduced me to huffing, sniffing, what was it called? Lacquer thinner. And
Mm,
apparently this is actually common in some, or at least was back then. I don't know if it is now, but it was actually quite common in communities to
mm,
use that as a substance, eh? And oh man, that stuff is just absolutely bonkers. I wouldn't even know how to describe that,
mm.
but I got hooked on it for about 6 months when I was
Oh my.
15. I was going into the bush, sneaking off by myself. I'd go to the hardware stores and like steal it and then like go find places to do it. And it was just again, I'm just trying to satiate that whatever that was, right?
Right.
And
And I
it,
think that's key, Sean. Like the way you're describing that, we need to, when you think about people like Gabor Mate, and he begins to talk about addiction, he begins to ask, not don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. Like find
mm,
out where this pain started. The
mm,
addiction is a response to the pain, just the way you said it, right? I'm trying to just say, just give some calm and love to that little 5-year-old whose life felt like he was, gonna be killed, and it's still that vibration is still happening of terror, and these substances just quiet that for a few minutes and gives you
exactly.
that, oh, and so we have to feel like I get it. I get why this is happening. You had trauma as a child, and of course you're going to find out substances that going to give you that relief for a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. It's
So
yeah. So you were doing that kind of stuff, and then it continued to escalate. Is that right?
more or less, yeah. And so, okay, so over time, I think when I was 18 was probably the first time I tried pills like opiates and that sort of thing. First time doing blow. And so yeah, from there. So yeah, from 18, I think yeah, pills became like a full-time thing when I was 19, which at that time it was oxys.
Hmm.
So there's a huge OxyContin epidemic. It was everywhere, but especially in northwestern Ontario.
Yeah.
Man, you could go to a doctor and they'd just write you a script, and everybody was hooked on it. I actually remember I knew each day of the week when somebody from my community was going to get their script. So I knew ahead of time that, okay, I could approach them if I had money or if I needed to borrow, like that sort of thing, eh? And so yeah, and oxys are super, super addictive. It's actually more addictive than heroin.
Mm.
It's basically medical grade heroin, right? It's like
Right.
more pure, more this. And so yeah, got hooked on that. And so at some point, I think when I was 21, yeah, I think when I was 21, I decided to leave the reserve because well, there were a variety of reasons. But yeah, I came back to Vancouver. As soon as I got back to Vancouver, my mom lived in the downtown east side at the Regent Hotel. And so right away, we walk by Carnegie, and right away, my ears are perking up. So I'm like, oh, wow. And it's like, it's so much cheaper here, too. So it was like, so as soon as I got down here, my addiction took a turn for the worst because it was way more accessible and it was way cheaper. And so, yeah, man, I got into, crack and heroin, and those two things were like kind of,
Mm.
oh man, it took me down as far down as you could go. I got so skinny, crime, selling anything I could get my hands on. I extracted as much resources as I could out of my mom, borrowing money and da 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 and all this stuff just to feed my addiction, right? And yeah, and I remember, yeah, just being at the Regent Hotel is like super dingy and just a fucking terrible place. It's
Right.
like it's so bad.
Right.
But
Like these
yeah.
we're talking about some of the most toxic, dangerous places in the world. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
honestly, I mean,
yeah.
as far as drug violence, and it's just horrific the kind of scene that you were experiencing there. All again, just trying to soothe that little one inside, and nothing's working. You're just they keep spiraling deeper into the addiction, deeper into this kind of shame and the sense of like self-loathing that happens with addiction, right? It's so toxic, and it's just it's a wonder you're alive, Sean. And we've talked
Oh,
about this before, and
yeah,
so maybe take me to kind of the maybe the peak of the pain, which is what happened to your mom. Do you want to take us into that?
sure. Yeah. So this would have been, yeah, okay. So at this point in time, I went to treatment and I had some clean time and I'd smartened up for the first time, I would say. So yeah, one night, um, just at home, sleeping, and get a knock at the door at about 3 in the morning. My girlfriend at the time answered it. And I was just kind of half awake, just like, what the hell? It's like 3 in the morning. Who the fuck's knocking on her door 3 in the morning? And then she comes back in the room. She's like, hey, Sean, you get up, you gotta, whatever. I was like, the hell? I'm like, okay. And then I realized it's the police, right? And the first thing that came to mind was, oh shit, was there some old stuff I did back in Wabigoon, like an old warrant or something that I,
Right.
like
Like, is this
something.
about me? Right.
Yeah, yeah. That was the first thing I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, I'm getting taken in or whatever. But that thought quickly passed because I realized they were wearing suits and then also just their demeanor.
Mm.
Like if I was being taken in, it would have been
Yeah.
obvious pretty quick. But no, it was they sat down and they had their little thing there, and they basically were like, we regret to inform you that last night at around 8 p.m., your mother, passed away and that sort of thing, right? And and it was weird. The moment they said it, it's like, in the movies when you like tune everything out,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Everything
tune
just
in.
goes.
Yeah, it was like that. It's like as soon as I was just like, ooh, and they kept talking and everything, but I was just in my mind, I was like, what? Like, what? And it was like, I don't
Mm.
know. So after maybe like 5 minutes, I just got up. I was like, I need to go for a walk. I gotta go walk. I'm just, so we'll be in touch. I'll phone you tomorrow, or whatever, and follow up with them. And so I went for a walk. I put some tobacco down by a tree and just kind of said a prayer, right?
Mm.
It's like, you know, and then yeah, I did a human thing, right? I went to the casino, right? I
Mm.
just needed to like get out of myself or whatever and just, try and forget for the moment. And then yeah, I texted my two brothers and my sister about what happened and, but like I said, it was like 3, 4 in the morning. So I
Mm.
didn't hear back from them for a few hours because of the time zone difference or whatever. Um, and then yeah, next day, me and Aaron went to the police station to go talk to the police and just kind of see what happened. And so they're kind of walking me through the details, right?
Mm.
So they're like, well, what we do know is that she was in the room with her boyfriend, Greg, right? And that they were arguing and that there was yelling, right? One of the neighbors heard this, and that sort of thing, right? Um, and their conclusion was, well, they basically labeled it an accident, even though it was obvious it was murder, right? Like she was pushed out of the window. A person doesn't just accidentally fall out
Oh
of the
my
window.
goodness. That's how she died?
Yeah, yeah,
Sean, holy cow, I didn't know that. That's the what a horrific, like that's not an accident.
yeah, no, exactly. And so, and they just couldn't put two and two together.
And
They
and
just
and they
couldn't.
never investigated?
No, no, no. They investigated. What they said was they couldn't prove that he did it. They
Right,
had proof that he did it, even though the moment they let him go from questioning, he fled back to Saskatchewan to his home, whatever.
right.
And it was like, if that's not a sign of guilt, I don't know what is, you
Right.
know what I mean? But
So
yeah,
that event of, losing kind of the one tie here to kind of love and connection, your mother, now that's kind of been snuffed out. And I mean that must have just been absolutely devastating for you, Sean.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely sent me for a loop. Um, I mean, so like I said, at the time I had some clean and sober time, you could say,
Yeah.
going to meetings and stuff, but I started gambling a lot. And so that became my escape or whatever.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then I spent a ton of money, all my student loans, all my everything. I just,
Mm,
man, I got, I was just upset and I didn't know how else to deal with it. And, unfortunately that cost me my relationship with Aaron.
mm.
And, it just kind of went like that. And so yeah, like for a long time it was I wasn't sure, what do you do with that? How do you manage that? Obviously mad at the police for not,
Yeah.
at least what I felt in my mind at that time was like, hey, this is so obvious. Like, how are you not able to put this together? And it was just,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Sean, I know that you have been in and out of, different treatment centers and rehabs like what, 20, 30 times. I lost count.
Probably about 15, 12 to 15, I think ish.
Right, right. And I remember you told me that the final one you were at that finally kind of woke you up, or you said, okay, this is it. You were telling me that out of the 12 guys in that program or something like that, you and then one other buddy are the only ones still alive. Like that's like it was
Yeah.
like all of the people I go into treatment with, they're all dead. Like
Well, a good chunk of them died. Yeah. No, what I meant was him and I were the only ones that came out of that actually made something out of their life.
wow,
Everyone
wow.
else either died or just went back into their addiction,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Which
Yeah,
is
like
just
they're the
bad.
only ones that have escaped the hell.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and it was interesting because right away we kind of gravitated towards each other, like,
Mm,
personalities and stuff. And he's actually a really, really good friend of mine, Ben.
mm,
And so yeah, I actually made a video with him on YouTube, just a short
mm.
one. But yeah, we're standing in front of Harbor Light, like, hey, this is where we were.
Oh, wow.
Because we did, because yeah, while we were there, it was during the coronavirus or whatever.
Mm.
So there's actually two lockdowns while we were there. It was so funny. It's like,
So you're spending COVID in lockdown in a treatment center.
yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
But it was a good place, and the counselor there was great.
Mm,
Did a lot of good work with her, and that sort of thing, right? So yeah, it would definitely, yeah, it helped. But see, I need to make a distinction though.
yeah.
For myself personally, I don't like to use the language clean and sober or whatever,
I like
because the
that.
fact
Yeah, yeah. Because
that
yeah, I remember you told me this. This is helpful. Explain this. I think this is important for viewers.
well, yeah, and I mean, it's for me, it's just more of a personal thing, right? Because, the fact of the matter is, I'm still a human being, and you know what? Yeah, I like to smoke a little bit of weed here and there, and maybe on special occasions have a few drinks or something, right? Being done responsibly in that way
Mm,
just seems okay to me. But for the most part, yeah, I try and just live my life in a good way, and more often than not, that means, being healthy, being fit, and
mm,
this, that, and the
mm.
other, right? So yeah, so just making that
Yeah.
distinction
Yeah,
because
I like that. I
because
like that.
because I
Because
can't
like,
say
kind of clean and clean kind of has this sense of like good or moral or better, and and we put in these binary categories, and that's sometimes not helpful.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I understand why people do it. And for some
Yeah.
people, that's their thing, and their identity is tied to that, and that's great. If that works for them, that's
Yeah.
awesome. But for
Yeah.
me, it's more. I'd say I'm a little bit more flexible, a little bit more in the gray. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So Sean, you come out of this program, you spent almost a year in treatment, I think there. It's just post-COVID. These things are helpful, like they give you tools, but they don't really address the core pain in your heart. You can help you kind of I've got to be working my program, doing the 12 steps. But then something miraculous happens in your life. You discover psychedelic medicines. I would love you to take us into your first psychedelic experience, because it's so different than the drugs. And I want to make a real difference between drugs that suppress our emotions and medicines that open the heart up. That's the difference. A drug can suppress alcohol. They just push it down and give a temporary relief. Psychedelic medicines are medicines that open and soften the body to open to healing. They can be very transformational, very difficult at times because they take you back into the biographical pain that needs to be felt so it can be released. But you had an encounter with psychedelics, and I don't know which one was first, but I remember once you were by yourself and you had kind of a visitation from.
yeah,
Okay, you want to take us into that story because it was so moving when you told me.
yeah. Well, hold on. I'm just trying to sift through the three or four different questions that were asked
Yeah,
there.
I know. Sorry, man. I'm all over the place here,
No,
but
no, no, no. It's all good. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So when I was a teenager, like any other teenager at that time, it was common for, mushrooms to be at a party and
yeah.
stuff, but it was always done in the guise of this is a party, we're having a good time and we're just laughing. It was not being done under the guise of healing or anything
Right.
like that, right? So I would say I experimented with it a few times in that way, maybe like, I don't know, three or four times or whatever. So your question, my first psychedelic
Yeah.
experience, my first breakthrough, I would say happened in 2019,
Mm.
almost by accident. Um, and it's so weird. I don't know. This was intuitive, but I took 5 grams, right?
Wow.
And it was
The
like,
Terrence McKenna,
yeah, yeah, I
hero's
know.
dose. Yeah.
I know, because like I went to the dispensary and I think I had like $30. So I was like, can I just get whatever this gets me? And so the guy like puts scales and it turns out to be 5 grams, puts in a bag, gives it here.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I just like basically chowed them down right there.
Wow.
And like started walking home. And so like 20 minutes later, I like get home and just kind of like chilling out, whatever. And not really sure what to expect. Maybe an hour passes. And then yeah, I'm just like, chilling in my kitchen when it kicked in. And it kicked in so fast too. It was like 1 minute I'm fine, and the next thing you know, it was just like, whoa, holy, whoa, what the, you know. And so I was listening to this song by Slipknot. It's called Circle.
Mm.
And I've listened to it like dozens of times, and it's an okay song. But for whatever reason, in this moment, it took on a whole new meaning. It was so strange. All of a sudden, the words, the lyrics, it was like, it was as if God himself was like speaking to me or something. You know what I mean? It's like these hidden meanings, these little like, it was just like, whoa. And then honestly, it felt like, yeah, it felt like the heavens were kind of parting and it was just this huge epic moment. And there's two parts in the song where there's like this chorus. And so it was like this huge wave, like just an immense wave of bliss, ecstasy, and whatever, right? And it was one of the most profound experiences of my life because I never felt that before. I didn't know it was possible to feel that good, to feel that like whatever that was, right? It was such a different
Belonging,
experience. It's like you
connection.
said, it's different than drugs. It's not, this was different. This was like, whoa, man. And so that was like that kind of opened my third eye, so to speak.
Right.
And it was just like, holy man, like man, I spent a good week just kind of like trying to what was that? You know what I mean? Like
Like the
it just,
doors of perception open using Aldous
yeah,
Huxley's language. You
yes.
saw something, the third eye. There was a new way of understanding the universe.
Oh, totally. 100%. Because like there's nothing that can prepare you for that. There is nothing that can prepare you for that. A 5 gram heroic dose, man, it's just it's a different experience.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience. And so that was like, yeah, that was the first one. And so I don't know, are you familiar with Ram Dass?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love Ram Dass. And
yeah.
so in one of his talks, he it's on the psychedelic salon. It's Become the Bliss. And there's a
Mm,
part in there where he's like, I discovered something so pure and so beautiful that I had to keep going back.
mm,
And it's like when he said it like that, that's precisely how it was for me at that time. Now that I had discovered it, I didn't know nothing else about it. I didn't know
mm.
about, integration. I didn't know
Right.
about
Yeah,
setting.
there's just no therapy. There's no one. This is you by yourself with this
Yeah,
medicine.
yeah, exactly. And so it was like, so I just kept every weekend, for like about 2 or 3 months there. I was just going deep. I was going as deep as I could. It was like discovering this, I don't know, man, like, but whatever it was, I fell in love with it. And then I began to learn how to work with it in different ways. And it's like, oh,
Mm,
if you use music and if you do this, and I
mm,
discovered you can make tea and this, and it's just like, oh, man. And then that's when I made my first passion project, Mushroom Heaven.
mm.
And so it was just a little podcast I did. It was just, like I said, it was just a passion project. It was just, it was what it was. But anyways, it felt good to do that. And it was like, so for me, that was kind of like it showed that this medicine can like awaken stuff in you
Yeah,
that you don't even know is there.
right.
But and then once you let it flow and it starts to flow, it kind of,
Mm,
um, and then yeah, so a good chunk of my experiences happened back then. Unfortunately, I was still young and I was still, I ended up at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person and started doing drugs again.
right.
And then so I relapsed inside. So, but like I
But
said,
here's an interesting thing, Sean. I think this is good, important. This
yeah,
isn't like a magic fix,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's not like, oh, I just take 5 grams and then I'm not an addict anymore and my life's perfect. Like that's
exactly.
not what we're saying. And I think that's so important as we're starting to research these medicines. Their potential lies within the container that they're put in, the integration that we pair it with, the kind of new patterns. Because as we know, what psilocybin does is it lights up this 5-HT2A receptor in the brain. It opens up neuroplasticity. During the experience, you can go back to these wounded parts, bring love, but then it's the integration after, the 4 weeks after, where your brain is neuroplastic, that you can say, what do I want to do? What are my values? Who do I want to become? Right? I mean, that's its potential. And as you're saying, listen, I was doing them. I was accessing this love. There was healing that was beginning, but I had no community in which to integrate this with.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, 100%. And, and it was the journey of self-discovery. Because at some point, though, I did start to realize I was like, oh, there's documentaries on this. Oh, there's books on this. Oh, and you kind of, and then once you get into it, you start to realize, like, oh, wow. And then there's a whole world of, research and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
initially it was just me and the medicine, just what is this
Right.
beautiful thing?
Yeah. I gotta fast forward a little bit because I
Sure.
really want to get to your project of what you're doing now
Yeah,
and a little bit of kind of your vision and passion. Because
yeah,
there's been a radical transformation, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 months with you, Sean. I know you came into a gathering group in December, I think, came to our place and did a a dose of psilocybin in our model, in a group model, and it was good, but I could feel that it was like I'm not quite ready to connect with these people. The stuff that was coming up was still quite shameful, to really look at some of that deep pain in your life. And yet I could feel that in our conversations after we went for that hike and after, I felt like you were really like you were doing some parts work in my mind. Like you were really getting to know this younger you, this 5-year old, and kind of bringing that little boy in that exile closer. And in that, I felt that there was a healing process that was happening. But you had a trip, I think, just like maybe February, like a few months ago. You said it was kind of the aha moment. Do you want to take us into that latest experience and what kind of exploded within you and what kind of newness came to you?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I guess it probably, just give me a moment here. Okay, yeah, because one thing I've learned with working with psilocybin is sometimes it manifests itself in different ways, right? Each experience can be so drastically different from the previous one that there's this high, variance, right? And so yeah, I remember, yeah, gathering groups in December, and then I think in like January, late January or February, I did a medium dose of 3.5 grams. And that was I don't know, I call it the unforgiving spirit. It's like it's what people would call it a bad trip. But I don't call it a bad trip. I just call it, oh wow, this thing is really trying hard to show me something that I need to take a look at.
And is it the resistance? Like when you say, I got to take a look at this, like it becomes hard because there's part of us that wants to resist feeling these feelings because they're overwhelming, right? And it's
Well,
hard to turn toward, right?
they can be, yeah. But I think for me, it was just more of like I don't know, that's just the expression that comes to mind when I think of that. Think of that experience. And because yeah, most people would label that experience as being like negative or whatever. But for me, even though it was harsh and it kind of sucked, I still took something out of it. I was still like, okay, not quite what I wanted, not quite what I had in mind, but
Yeah.
okay, and then so I got my little psychedelic journal, I take notes,
Mhm.
whatever. Okay, couple weeks later, 3, 4 weeks later, whatever. Oh yeah, so I need to give context here. So for the last 18 months, I've been tapering down off of my OAT, I think it's called, opiate replacement therapy or whatever. And it's taken a long time to get down to this
Mm.
low dose. And I've actually attempted to get completely off it like 2 or 3 times over. I try to make the jump, but
Mm.
the withdrawals are quite well, it's very uncomfortable to say the least. Okay, so just to provide context there. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So get to this point. So I'm in withdrawal. I haven't slept. I'm like tired, whatever. And it's just exhausting. I went out for a walk and during this walk, I was like trying to think like, hey, I need a solution here. I need to fix this, whatever's going on with me because this really sucks. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, I think I still have like a quarter gram of shrooms at home somewhere, somewhere in my dresser or something. It's totally random. I was like, oh, because I like kind of got some enthusiasm. So I started walking faster. I'm like, oh yeah, I got those shrooms at home. And so whatever, get home. And so by then, I hadn't eaten it since the morning. So I had an empty stomach. So the timing of that was kind of nice. But like I said, I was in a lot of like pain, suffering from the withdrawals and stuff. So I made a 5 gram tea, right? I made a 5 gram tea and I was like, Kate, I like took some notes in my journal, whatever, and then Kate, whatever. And yeah. And so I drank the tea. And you know what I noticed with the tea? It kicks in so fast. Like honestly,
Mhm.
10,
Yeah.
15 minutes, you're
A little
you're
bit of lemon in that tea and boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, it's pretty cool that way. So yeah, so right away, I started to kind of feel the effects and it was just kind of like, oh, and but this time it wasn't like the last one where remember I said the unforgiving spirit?
Yeah.
This time I knew it was different. This time I was like, oh, okay, this is, oh, you get a sense for it, right?
Yep.
Um, and so yeah, and so immediately everything kind of began to change, right? And if I remember correctly, on this particular journey, there seemed to be this like well, at least one of the themes was like an Egyptian theme or something.
Mm.
I don't know how to explain that,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
like some Egyptian stuff
There's
going
kind of
on there.
archetypes, ancient archetypes from Egyptian. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like okay, this stuff's happening, and so now I'm like trying to like pay attention and be aware of what's happening. I got my music going, and then and that's all fine and dandy. And then at some point, this is so weird, and I've had this happen a few times on mushrooms where your body starts to do involuntary things, right?
Yeah.
Against your control. You're just
Yeah.
like, I don't
Like
want
sometimes
to do it.
shaking, trauma shakes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I had another think about it. Yeah, I've had that happen once or twice. But okay, so this time though, I was just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of sitting there like this, just kind of like holding this pose, right? And I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out why. I was just like, And then it was almost like there was this intuitive voice to just like be still and pay attention to what's about to happen, right? And so it's like, okay, so I'm like, hey, and then yeah, there was this moment where it was like the portal was about to open, right? The consciousness portal, we'll say, just a little hole maybe in the fabric of reality. And then it was like I could see God's consciousness kind of peering back at me, right? And then here's my consciousness kind of like whatever. And then it's like trying to like sync up. And but because I'm human and I'm fallible, I'm kind of like missing the mark. And so God just got to kind of make up for it. And eventually it connects, right? And then that's when you have that out of body experience, right? That's when the consciousness just goes somewhere. Because what happened after that, I just I don't even know how to begin to put that into words, but basically it was just like a massive, massive download. And like I said, so much was happening, like all these different directions and stuff. And one of the things I realized after, the reason I was holding that pose is because the spirits were preparing me because I was about to cross over. You know what I mean? So
Oh.
it's like that's what that is. So it's like, so okay, so boom, crossover. Now we're in the spirit world, right? Boom, all this stuff is like happening. And it's like 20 minutes of just like so much stuff, right? Finally get to this place. And it's like nice and kind of quiet, right? And it's like, and I can see thunder beings, right? Thunderbirds that are just kind of there. And it was like a council or a federation or something like a Thunderbird council or federation or something like like elite spiritual beings perhaps. And so anyways, I'm just kind of like there, and then I could hear like a voice or like something like that, like a logos, and it was like Ogimal Pene. And then all those thunder beings turned and looked at me. And I was like, what? That's a name, right? That's a new name. Ogimal Benesse, that means Chief Thunderbird, right? And so I was kind of like just like, what? And then from there, oh man, it was like, this is who you are now. All this stuff happened so fast. It was like, this is who you are. This is your name. This is what it means. This is how you need to be. This is how you need to conduct yourself. This is you need to hold yourself to this high standard and no excuses, no matter what. Right. And like I said, it was that's why I use the word download because this stuff happened so fast. And so it's like, okay, and then it's like, okay, and then back. Oh, oh, uh, did that just happen? You know? And so
Oh.
check this
Yeah.
out. Now I'm almost done. So yeah, Ogimel Penese, right? And so I got it tattooed here,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, in my mind, the way I looked at it, it was like it was like JC himself was like tattooing that name on me, eh? Like in
Mhm.
Egyptian style, like
Yeah.
and it's like that's my new name and that's and so it really was kind of like like a death rebirth experience, right?
Yeah.
And sort of come back and then to embody that, to do that every day, get up, go running, da 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 da, da, do
I
this, do that, and just all this stuff, right? And ever since
John,
then,
I'm just getting shivers. Like I got my whole body got shivers when you heard the Thunderbird spirit beings call your name and you turn and then you get this new name
yeah,
in your language. You
yeah,
know, like this is who you are. This is what your standard is. This is who you're going to become. There is no more excuses. You got to rise to this new kind of level of who you want to be. And I
yeah.
actually, to be honest with you, Sean, I had this moment of this is a biblical proportions. I mean, this is the
Yes,
story of
yes,
Saul on the road to
yes,
Damascus. You know,
exactly,
he's
exactly.
persecuting Christians, the followers of the way, and he's struck with this blinding light that literally blinds him. The scriptures billions of people have said, yeah, that's a story we understand. That the divine reaches down into consciousness, blinds you, and gives you a new name. And you will now be Paul. And you will no longer torture and murder anymore. You will live according to love and connection and purpose. And his whole life changes. And he begins the Christian religion, really. I mean, he's
Yeah,
the founder. I mean, Shawn, you have a road to Damascus experience, buddy. It changed your life.
it's crazy, man. Honestly, it is. It actually is insane because after that, the stuff that has happened since then is almost unexplainable. Like how fast things are moving and how fast things are happening. It's just like, holy man. It's almost like I think about it and then the next day it's here. You know what I mean? It's. I don't know how to explain that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a very, very powerful experience, and and that's actually the reason why I got it in an Old English font. Because like
Huh. Because
of
it
that.
feels like kind of like a hieroglyphic, whatever kind of stamp that's this is who I am now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And I want to live to that. I mean, as part of the down line of that, Shawn, is you have had a passion. I mean, you were almost 400 pounds,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
395. You were
yeah,
400 pounds 18 months ago.
yeah. No,
You
nine
have
months ago.
how
Nine
many?
and a half,
Nine?
9.5 months ago was July 1st. I was 395 on July 1st. I took a picture of it too, just so I had
Yeah,
proof. So yeah, it's been 163 pounds in 9.5 months. That's
dude.
how much I've dropped in the last nine and
That
a half
is
months.
unbelievable life
That's insane.
transformation. Doing
Yeah.
that, by eating well and by moving your body.
Yeah.
You are now running.
Oh,
You've got a passion because and this is when I know that these psychedelic experiences aren't just getting high. They
yeah.
actually change the entire structure of your being,
Oh,
give you a new name, and give you a purpose in life.
100%.
And
Yeah.
and I can see that in you, Shawn. You're a different guy than who I met even in December. There's
Yeah.
a confidence and a sense of purpose that you have that I have a vision from the Thunderbirds about who I am and what I need to do in the world. And I know that you're on this mission. You're starting a YouTube channel. I've seen some of your videos.
Yeah.
You want to do this run in July to raise awareness for murdered and missing Indigenous women across Canada. You want to raise money for MAPS,
Yeah.
the Psychedelic Association of Canada, to do research because people need access to this medicine. We
Yeah.
need to be doing clinical trials to show that this medicine is safe and it's effective at helping people heal that deep pain in them so they can get off these medicines, right? Get
Oh,
off these drugs.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this run that you want to do in July.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, it was weird when I first started jogging. Well, here, I'll just do this real quick. So when I first started walking, I could only walk for like 5 minutes, right?
Mhm.
That's how big I was, right? I could barely get around the block. So, okay, but then 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes, turns into 20. And the next thing you know, you're walking 2, 3 times a day. Da, da, da. Okay. So same thing with jogging, right? You start off small, 15, 20 minutes, da, 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 da. And then by the time I got to about an hour where I was able to do an hour, it was just like in my mind, I was like, huh. I was like, I wonder, can I, and then it was just, again, it was just, I've had so many moments like that where it just begins as a thought and then it just, takes on a life of its own. But then, yeah, and then so I brought it up with a friend of mine and he's like, yeah, da, 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 and I was just like, oh, okay. And then it just kind of went from there. And so, yeah, the idea was, yeah, to run from Dryden to my reserve, which is about 33, 34 kilometers, right?
Solid.
So, depending on your pace, it could take anywhere from, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours, I guess. It really does depend on your pace and how fast you're going or whatever. And then, yeah, and so the idea, yeah, is just to raise awareness around this issue. I did start a Facebook page, and so I want to like just, maybe once a week, just post like different stories that are kind of related to it. I've been posting all my runs. So my brother got me this Google Watch,
Yeah.
exercise watch or whatever. So each morning I like keep track of like the distance and that sort of thing. And so I take a picture of it, post it on Facebook. That way people can kind of see the progress, right? And
Right,
also
right.
see that I'm taking this seriously, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I am going to do this. This is happening. And
Yeah.
here's the training that was involved. Here's the progress or whatever and that sort of thing, right? So yeah.
It's so inspiring, Shawn. I mean, the kind of like I really appreciate your ability to kind of tell your story because it really shows the kind where you were to where you are now, where you are stepping into leadership. You are stepping into, I know what I'm called to be and do in the world. You have this heart to open up access to these medicines, and tell us a little bit about your passion for why you think these kind of psychedelics need to be researched and studied so they can be a tool of kind of healing for people across the planet. Yeah, tell me about your heart for that.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. So, well, one of my long-term goals, what I would like to see, um, and this is going to require a fair amount of work, a fair amount of organizing and stuff, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe in 2 or 3 years, but an indigenous, no, I'll be even more specific, an Anishinaabe-based psychedelic healing center. You know what I mean? One that incorporates aspects of the culture, right? But then also incorporates all the stuff that gathering groups did, the week by week thing,
Mhm.
that sort of stuff all tied in there. And then yeah, have it so that there maybe say there's a sweat lodge on Friday evening, and then Saturday follow a similar pattern to what you guys did, light breakfast in the morning, and then after that do the journey in the morning, afternoon, give people time to process, and then Sunday give them a full day to process, light activities and stuff like that, and then send them home and keep in touch like similar to how you guys did,
Right, like integration. Yeah,
yeah, 4 weeks afterward, keep everybody connected on Zoom and that sort of thing. So it'd really just be a matter of, yeah, establishing an actual physical location. And so what I'm thinking is it might require like multiple communities in the Treaty 3 area to kind of pool the resources
yeah,
together. And then that way it ensures that people from those communities would kind of have first access or
yeah.
first, that sort of thing. And then yeah, kind of take it from there. So that's kind of
John,
that's
I
kind of where it's
love
at
that
right now.
vision. Like I would love to help you create that, make that vision happen. I think it's absolutely needed. It's beautiful. We need to get these medicines out of the labs and this individual one-on-one kind of individualized model that kind of the Western sciences kind of co-opted psychedelics and put it into an individual kind of performance, in a little lab. We need to bring this into community healing. And your idea of using group-based healing models with indigenous practices, nature-based retreat centers. To me, this is the future. This is the way, man. And yes, starting with your own people to say, how do we create a healing center using these medicines, using the old ways to kind of bring young people into places of healing, not as just, hey, white knuckling, you got to get off drugs, but actually healing the pain that first caused the reason for these drugs, right? Your vision, Shawn, I want to back, and I believe in what you're doing. And if we as gathering groups can help support you, and we can bring some level of training, but you guys can take it to the next level with indigenous
Yeah,
practices. Shawn,
totally.
dude, we got to do this, man. We got to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, that would be awesome. I would love to have your help, and that would be much appreciated. I mean, yeah, the more the merrier in terms of like, yeah, that would be awesome. That would be
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I would love to help find funding, support. I mean, amazing, Shawn, but you've done a degree at UBC and you are you're an
There you
expert.
go.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah, good for you, man. You are a really skilled grant writer and understand how to unlock funds for Indigenous communities to go after their goals. This is what you are a consultant for, and I know you're helping your own communities get access to funds for healing, for kind of projects that they
Language,
really need to.
language. Yeah, it's been all language. Yeah.
It's incredible. Oh, so right now it's just about language, keeping the language alive.
Yeah, yeah, well, most of my grant writing's been associated with that.
Yeah,
But you're right, there are other avenues that can be
yeah,
explored related to culture, related to healing, related to
yeah.
this, that, and the other, right? So, but yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Well, Shawn, I it's been absolutely inspiring to see you, to catch up with you again. Dude, I'm so proud of your weight loss. And it's not just to me, it's not just about weight, it's about a passion you have for your body, that you see yourself as valuable. Like, and one of the things that came up in your journey at our place here was just this line of like, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve any good thing in my life. And which was rooted in shame. And what I'm hearing you now is, I deserve this. I deserve love. I have value. I have a purpose and I want to help heal others. And that's why you're doing this run is to benefit other people, to raise money for MAPS so they can do this research. And dude, if I can help amplify your voice, Shawn, you are a leader, not just in your own community, but I think a leader in this generation of saying, we've got medicines now that can help us unlock this pain and really heal it so that we can move forward as a people. So inspiring, Shawn. It's an absolute pleasure to connect and know you.
Yeah, no, 100% Peg. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, this has been quite the journey. And the medicine is just so amazing and so beautiful. And I actually just want to take a moment to acknowledge psilocybin as a spirit molecule, as a medicine, and just all the work that it's done for me and that it's helped me with and all that stuff. It's very beautiful, and so I'm very grateful. So yeah.
Mm. What a beautiful story, Shawn. You've just taken, this story of pain and trauma and murder and loss, and you've really had this, it reminds me of the story of Joseph, right? Where he's thrown down a well and he thinks his life's over. He gets sold as a slave. He gets put back in jail in Egypt, and God's like, I meant it for good all along. You will be raised up and you will help save your people. I mean, that's the ancient story of Joseph. And dude, that's you, man. You are that guy.
That's one of my favorite lectures by Jordan Peterson is the Joseph story. I've listened to that like dozens of times because man,
Oh, dude,
such
I,
an
I didn't
inspiring
know that.
story. Yeah, it's an inspiring story. It's just, oh
Well,
man,
I think
when
it's
I hear
your favorite story because you see yourself in this story.
a little
At
bit
the
of that.
bottom of a well, take stripped of all of your connection, all the robe is gone and now stained with blood, and you're forgotten about. Your mom is murdered. You're an addict on the street. Like, look where you are now, man. So proud of the work that you've put into your life, and I really want to help you get your story out there. There is hope for people. If people are listening to this and they're finding themselves in these places of pain, of loss, of addiction, of grief, there is help out there. Please reach out. You can reach out to Gathering Groups. Go to GatheringGroups.ca. Go to Shawn's Facebook page. We'll have these links. Reach out to Shawn directly. If you connect with his story, I know he would love to connect with you. So Shawn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and being so open about your story. I just have so much love for you, brother, and I think our paths are going to continue to overlap here as we both have a similar vision for where this medicine needs to go in our world.
No, totally 100%. And thank you so much, Peg, for having me onto your podcast. It is much appreciated. And yeah, honestly, thank you so much. And I look forward to continuing to working with you in a good way. And yeah, we should get together sometime, maybe go for
Yeah.
a break or something. So
Yeah, let's go for a run, man. Let's do
yeah,
a let's
sure.
do a jog together. And hey,
Yeah,
just as an ending, do you mind just saying your Indigenous new name again and just kind of giving us a little bit of a blessing as we close off?
sure. Yeah, so it's Ogimao Penese, Chief Thunderbird. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I can do a blessing, but I would say that I just hope that the work you do continues on in a good way, and yeah, that good things continue to happen in that way. So, miigwech.
Thanks so much, Shawn. All the best, my friend.